So let's go and take a look at the iPhone 6 and compare it against the iPhone 6s and see how both these iPhones compare in 2023. Now, I really don't think anybody should be buying these iPhones anymore. I think that's quite obvious. But I look at a phone like the iPhone 6 and the 6s, and visually, a lot of people think they look almost the same, and they are almost the same phones. But there's a lot of differences internally, which made the iPhone 6s still a phone people were buying up until last year, with the iPhone 6 I wouldn't recommend anybody buying since like 2019. So, if you want to pick up some phones I would recommend buying this year, though, the links will be down in the description. You can get them from there, and you can help support the channel at the same time. Now, side by side, you can definitely tell there's a lot of similarities here. The iPhone 6 that came out in 2014 on the front had a 4.7-inch IPS panel, and it was a pretty good display. I think a lot of people would look at this type of phone and pretty much be still okay with the way it looks. I mean, if you think about, I just have so many memories with this type of phone, to be honest, and I still think it looks very unique. I think it looks very, very good for an older phone. But this phone's approaching 10 years old almost, and when you look at this type of device, it's just crazy. You had big bezels at the bottom and the top. You had the Touch ID, the home button here. But this was one of the first times we got this bigger sized iPhone that's still kind of decent sized. This design is still being reincarnated in the iPhone SE as well, so this iPhone still kind of lives on. With the iPhone 6s on the front, we had a 4.7-inch IPS panel. So it was a good panel too. It was probably a better panel here and there than the iPhone 6. But the thing with the iPhone 6s was that it was almost exactly the same type of phone as the iPhone 6. It looked the same. There really wasn't too many crazy things going on here. It was pretty much the exact same phone as we would have imagined. So that's just kind of what happens when you're getting a phone like this as far as we can tell. So Touch ID 2 on the front actually, which is a nice touch. And that kind of covers it up there. In terms of thinness and thickness, pretty much the same type of phone. The iPhone 6, if you remember, had this type of like bending issue where it bent very easily. Luckily with the 6s, Apple did kind of address it and fix it, but a lot of people still bent their iPhone 6s. I didn't really bend this one. I did have an iPhone that was bent though, which is very weird. On the bottom we do have our headphone jack here, as well as a lightning port on both of them. Almost exactly the same type of build and same type of things for sure on both of them. And on the back, pretty much the same type of thing too. There's not really a big difference here. You can kind of tell, I mean, if this one wasn't the rose gold color, I probably wouldn't be able to tell which one is which until we look at the bottom and we can see that there is an S here and there's not an S there. There's no wireless charging on these phones. There's not really IP certification on either one of these phones either. Like these phones are like very, very bare bones. But for these phones being 1 year apart from each other, there were some cool things that happened. For one, the iPhone 6s did get some upgraded cameras. We actually did end up getting Touch ID 2, which is cool. And we got Force Touch on the front, which is another really nice touch. So in terms of that, that kind of covers it up on the outside. Now, in terms of software and longevity, this is going to be the one area where the iPhone 6 just got lapped in. The iPhone 6 got discontinued in software, I think in 2019. So in 2019, this is when this phone got its like last version of software. It was like iOS 12. And it was a very interesting version of software. It was safe, it was good, but when you look at it, I mean, it just really wasn't that great. And, it was good, but quickly the iPhone 6s, I want to say iOS 12 was a good version of software. It didn't bring the most amount of features, but it was good. But the iPhone 6s got like lapped the iPhone 6. This phone ended off on like iOS 15 and it's still getting software support. The iPhone 6 was still getting software support too. But for this phone to get so many versions of software on top of the iPhone 6 makes no sense to me at all. The iPhone 6 just got discontinued last year, so it lasted like 3 more versions of software than the iPhone 6, which is insane. So that kind of stuff is crazy, and I look at the iPhone 6s and it shocks me for sure. So that kind of covers it up there. Let's go and do a speed comparison between them. The iPhone 6s has the Apple A9 chip inside of it with 2 gigabytes of RAM, the first iPhone to bring 2 gigs of RAM. Where the iPhone 6 has that Apple A8 chip inside of it with a 1 gigabyte of RAM. One of the last iPhones to have 1 gigabyte of RAM. So let's go and see how both of these compare. There we go. All the apps are cleared out in the background, so let's get into it. Phone calls 3, 2, 1. The 6S is here, the iPhone 6 is here. It's already a big difference. Music 3, 2, 1. iPhone 6 I think is the faster one, but they were on 2 different panels. So we're going into settings 3, 2, 1. I think the iPhone 6s was faster. There are app stores 3, 2, 1. Now I hope I don't run into any issues here. And it doesn't look like I will. And the 6S is looking to be the, well, we'll wait and see. So the 6S did load into it faster. The iPhone 6 just a tiny bit behind, not a big deal. Scrolling through, let's see if there's a big difference here either, which I don't really think there will be. And they're both kind of looking the same thing. It's kind of crazy because the iPhone 6 did kind of glitch up a little bit more, I think, hopping out of these two. They kind of closed out at the same time as well. So we're going to do their cameras, 3, 2, 1. And it is crazy because there's like 3 versions of software between these two, and they look still almost exact the same, which is insane. Clock, 3, 2, 1. Okay, not a big difference there either. And we can try Apple TV. I know I have it here somewhere, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I guess it's going to take 30 minutes, so we'll hop out of this one. Let's go and get into some of these other applications that I have on both. So for some reason, my iPhone 6 has like no other apps, and I think it's because I have to delete these apps every time. 3, 2, 1. And that's mostly because of there's just not enough storage on either one of these phones to keep continuing to keep supporting software on them. We can try podcasts, which I have here, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I think the iPhone 6s was faster. We can try another app. Let's go and try something like iTunes Store, 3, 2, 1. And for some reason, we're getting that error on the iPhone 6s. Very, very strange. And the iPhone 6 was a little bit slower. So I think when it kind of comes down to it, both phones are fairly slow in this day and age. I don't think I would recommend anybody to buy either one of these phones right now. I think that would be very, very just, that would be doing disservice to probably the newer iPhones. I think if you want to buy an iPhone, again, the iPhone like 8 and iPhone 10 are going to be doing you a way better job. But I still look at a phone like the iPhone 6s, and this phone was still supported up until last year, and it's still kind of supported, and so was the iPhone 6 in some ways. So in terms of speed, that kind of covers it up there. Hopefully it shows you that both these phones are very slow. In terms of the cameras between them, this was also another pretty big difference. So with the iPhone 6, it was actually the last iPhone to only film in 1080p, I think. So we had an 8 megapixel camera on the iPhone 6, 12 megapixel camera on the iPhone 6s. Like I said, you may think that these cameras are similar because they look similar, but that was not the case at all. With the iPhone 6, funny enough, I remember this camera kind of owning it with the 6 Plus, and that camera was not bad. It was like a pretty decent camera. And for sure, I had a decent time with it. And this type of camera, I mean, there's no telephoto lenses or ultra-wide lenses on either one of these. You had photo mode, video mode, slow mode, time lapse. All the way over here, you had square mode and panorama mode. So nothing crazy, pretty basic camera. It wouldn't be a camera I would recommend people to buy anymore, but I guess it kind of does the job. Like, I guess it's an okay camera when it kind of comes down to it. With a phone like the iPhone 6s, this is a phone that I think is like, I don't know the best way to describe it, but this was a monumental change. So for one, you were getting higher megapixel count on this camera, which was awesome. You were also getting, this is the big thing, first iPhone to bring 4K video. Having 4K video like that is awesome, and I'm so glad we even have that type of capability here. But that's still a very cool thing that you actually ended up getting on something like the iPhone 6s. So to kind of sum up this whole entire video, what I'll tell you is I still look at a phone like the iPhone 6s, and I'm very happy with the way Apple approached this phone. It was a big change coming from the iPhone 6. Although it wouldn't be a phone I would recommend buying anymore, it is not a good phone anymore. It was a big change, and it was a big phone I would recommend, for a long period of time. The iPhone 6 stopped in 2019. Since then, I haven't really recommended people to buy it, but it's still it's still an interesting phone, right? It was kind of underpowered when it first came out, but I would say it was a good phone when it first came out. It had some weird issues, but since then it's kind of aged a little bit better because of iOS 12, and I wouldn't recommend buying either one of these phones. I'd recommend buying an iPhone 10 or newer. So in terms of that, it kind of covers it up there. If you have any other thoughts or questions, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.